That's another one.
Do you want me to?
No, you're good.
I will play with that.
You're good.
It's so hard to look at the camera versus the screen. Wow, we have a good turnout. I actually thought the weather would be a factor, but I guess some of you were here for a group.
We've been here forever, yeah. Is it still snowing out there?
Yeah, it's kind of a yucky snow, so yeah, better to stay in here. Yeah. Join us in here. Jeremy has no clue what happens outside. He's been down here 13 years.
He's a mole.
It's always nice outside down here. We're streaming.
Does anyone want water? You're good? You're good? Oh, you have water, and you would like water. I realized the nod, I wasn't sure if that meant you had water or you would like water. I'll just pour it to you. Jeremy, would you like water?
I have mine. Thank you so much.
Is this dietary session daily for different programs, or is it just one day?
So once a month, we do an open session like this, and it has a theme. Today it's nutrition myths, and Jeremy prepares 3 new recipes each time. And then if you're part of the CARE program, then you would meet us. You have one session as part of CARE on eating, cook for wellness. That's us. We do another program called Feel Good and Eat Well, and that is 6 sessions over 6 weeks, and that's like taking a deeper dive into creating your own nutrition care plan. And then we do another one for fatigue, and that's virtual, and that's not every second. It's the second Tuesday of the month, and that's virtual on a Thursday. So those require registration, all of those, except CARE, if you're in CARE. And then this one's just open, you just come.
Is there someplace on the internet where we can register, or just?
There is,
Yeah.
If you go to Elixir Kitchen,
So for the Feel Good, and the Cooking for Vitality classes through UHN or Princess Margaret, we're on there. So if you just search Elixir Kitchen, you'll see all of the programs that we offer on there.
Yeah, and I think outside at the entrance there should be some Feel Good and Eat Well forms, pamphlets.
Oh,
The
yeah.
next one is starting the 5th.
Yes.
I think there's still a couple of spots left.
Yeah. Yeah, and all the registration happens through Jess at the front, so you can even tell her in person if you're here for another class. You can register for those groups. These classes you don't have to register for. And welcome, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I was going to say come every third.
Come in a little closer.
Oh, sorry.
Come on in.
There
Hit the
we
frame.
go.
I have the frame over more today. Okay, well, we're going to get started. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, everyone.
Should we clap?
Yeah, you can make noise. For sure. Thank you.
Just let the people at home know
Yeah.
that we have an audience.
Yes. Yeah. And for those that are new, welcome to our class today. You will see there's a camera on us, and so sometimes I will drift off into that space. I'm still here with you as well. So we are teaching to our live audience. We have a few people watching live. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome as well. If you have any questions, go ahead and type it in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll answer. For today, we have an exciting class. We'll start with introductions. My name is Jeremy Capone. I'm the wellness chef for Cancer Rehab and Survivorship at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center. And join us always the amazing registered dietitian, Daniela Fiorini. Hello.
Hi. So happy New Year. And yes, Daniela Fiorini, registered dietitian. Been around this place for decades. Anyway, so this is our first demo of 2025, and we thought it would be a great way to kick off the year with talking about some nutrition myths. And our first myth that we'll be talking about is detox diets, right? You hear it everywhere right now, especially January after the holidays. And actually, it's pretty much a $1 billion industry when you're thinking about the supplements that people take or joining programs. And I read that just the global detox drink alone industry is expected to grow from $5 billion US to $10 billion US by 2032. So you can see how crazy that is, right? So our first one is going to be on detox diets. Do we really need them to flush the dangerous poisons out of our bodies? Our second myth is another common one we hear a lot about. It's growth hormones in our meat products. Does it cause us illness? Does it make us sick? And our last is one we probably hear with every session we do, and is that sugar feeds cancer. So Jeremy has whipped up 3 tantalizing recipes. Tantalize the taste buds. We love our alliteration here. But it'll also serve as a guide to separate fact from fiction. So our first recipe is a creamy spinach soup. And this scrumptious soup is full of fiber, fluid, and phytochemicals. Okay, I have too many alliterations going on. These are key properties that support our body's natural detox system. Okay, so we don't need to do the expensive diets. We don't need to do the restrictive detox diets to flush toxins out. Our body already does that for us. It is a detox machine when we take into account our digestive system, our liver, our kidneys, our skin, our heart, our lungs. And staying well hydrated and having fiber-rich foods is one way of making sure that we keep our body, our digestive system working efficiently, right? We want to make sure we clear out our bowels regularly so we don't have toxins, sitting in our gut. The fiber-rich foods also feed the healthy bacteria in our gut, which help with our immune system, our brain health. And then the phytochemicals, the naturally occurring chemicals found in food that we talk about as brightly colored. So here we have the bright green going on. And we have some yellow there. That also is part of it too. Help neutralize the toxins that build up in the body. And that helps our liver and kidneys, which are filters that remove toxins. But you know what? That's enough talk about toxins. We want to get to the food. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy.
This is the perfect pairing. So this is one of my favorites. I love talking about these nutrition myths. And Danielle has some great tips. So we're going to pair with the first myth with this delicious soup, like you mentioned. What I love about this soup is we're using some ingredients that pretty accessible. One of my favorites is frozen spinach. I think frozen spinach gets overlooked. It is such an easy add to different dishes. You can add it to smoothies, obviously. This is going to be the star of our soup for today. And then before we get to the frozen spinach, we will work on some flavor. So I have a pot, medium pot, a little bit of olive oil, medium heat, and I'm going to add some garlic cloves, which I've just crushed in advance. I know we've talked about this before. Love this little trick. Prepping your onion and your garlic first. Number one, it's going to start to activate the aromas. And you can feel, especially with garlic, that sort of tackiness, that stickiness. But then, nutrition tip.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if I should throw it out to the audience. We have some people that have been with us a while. Yeah? Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Do you want to answer? Yeah? Okay.
No.
No. Do you want me to answer? Okay, that was me answer. Okay. So what it does, it also activates an enzyme. So crushing the garlic or cutting the onion activates an enzyme. And this enzyme develops an antioxidant. Antioxidants are good. They help to fight unstable molecules in the body. But this enzyme needs 10 minutes before you add it to heat to fully develop this antioxidant called allicin. So prepping in advance, at least 10 minutes, helps you get the benefit of that antioxidant called allicin.
Love that. And we'll continue to share that. All right, so olive oil, medium heat. And I've added my garlic cloves. Any other aromatics you can add at this point. Onion, celery, carrots, whatever you like, whatever you have. I'm keeping it very, very simple. I'm showing you sort of the base of this recipe, and then you can sort of build as you would want. I love garlic, so I've got, 4 cloves in there. You can obviously pare that back as well. If you like the taste of garlic, you don't do so well digesting the garlic because it can be a little problematic. Leave it in its mostly whole state, just like I did. Once it does its job of imparting all that flavor into your fat, which I'm using the olive oil here, you can actually remove the cloves afterwards and set them aside. So you'll have the flavor, but you don't have to eat the garlic. Okay. So a couple minutes just until we get some color, and then I'm going to add a couple ingredients which is going to give us the creaminess of this soup. I'm not actually adding any dairy or cream to the dish to make it creamy, although you can, and this is where you can sort of play around with calorie intake if you need more, if you need less, right?
Calorie intake, protein intake.
Yeah. So for this, we're going to be using, to give it that nice creaminess, a really, really nice texture, adding a little bit of potato. Thank you. A little bit of potato, just peeled, ready to go. I would use something in the waxier potato category because I feel like it gives it this really nice sort of texture, this really nice creaminess. It breaks down a little better versus like a starchy, like a russet potato or a baking potato. So like your Yukon Gold, your white and yellow potatoes, those would be really great for this. So once we have a little bit of color with my garlic cloves, I can go ahead and add potato to this.
This is where I like to play. Oh, it was really quick. Okay.
Get ready for the next one. Get ready for the next one.
Okay.
And then some lentils as well. These are like dal. These are like split dal. You can use split peas, like split pea soup. Those ones are great. Actually, that's what I have in my recipe. They'll take probably the longest to cook. So they might take like about 25 minutes simmering. These dal will take like maybe 15 minutes. And then your red lentils, your split red lentils will be even quicker. It'll be like 10, 12 minutes. Yes?
Do you need to soak those?
You don't need to soak them. That's the beautiful thing about our split dal and our lentils. No need to soak. We're ready to use as is. I usually just give them a rinse because they come out of a package, but other than that, no prep necessary at all. So just
I really want to go to the pot. Oh, that doesn't go to the pot. There we go. Oh, you can't really. Can you hear it sizzle though? There we go.
There we go. Pot can. So I'm going to go ahead and add the dal in here. And then we can cover with some broth, veg broth. Daniela really loves the remotes for the camera.
Yeah.
And we're just going to cover it. You can use veg broth, chicken broth, whatever you like. About 4 cups.
And aren't you always impressed about how clean his area is?
This is the beginning of the show.
Of
By
my
the end,
stove.
it might look like that. So that's pretty much it. We have our aromatics with the garlic. We have our starchier vegetables. We have our potato and our lentils, which will cook down. Let that simmer. So lid on top. I'm going to turn it down to medium low. And we're going to let that simmer just until the potatoes are nice and soft. And if you're using the split peas or if you're using lentils, until those are nice and soft. Once that's done, we can go ahead and add our green vegetables, okay? I'm adding frozen spinach because it's just super easy. Even the block spinach, which tends to be, I think, the cheaper out of the two, like if you have the bag chopped one, and they're great. They're really, really good. They last forever in the freezer, and then you can just throw it in. Obviously, I'm adding frozen. It will cool down the broth, just bring it back up to a simmer, and then a couple minutes with the spinach. You don't need long. And then right at the end is when I would add, if I'm adding any fresh herbs, I'm going to add them right at the end because I want to keep that really, really nice vibrant green color. But as soon as I add the herbs, I take it off from the heat, and then I'm good to go with blending.
Beautiful. Yes, there's a
Is
question.
there anything special about is it frozen or will fresh spinach operate the same way?
Fresh spinach is just good, absolutely. We love frozen just for the accessibility of it.
And the ease.
And the ease.
And some people just find it difficult to, whether it's a neuropathy or fatigue, there's difficulty in working with raw fruits and vegetables. So we give the option. Some people have avoided frozen thinking it doesn't have as much nutrition, but it's just as nutritious as raw. So you can use either or, fresh.
Yeah.
Another question.
If I throw in, I can just throw in that block of frozen that you can buy in a package. Like you don't have to thaw it and then put it.
No.
It's just, it's gonna be melted in.
Exactly. Yeah. If you break it down before you throw it in or defrost it, it'll just come back up to a simmer a little bit quicker. But you're putting the time in to chop it, so it doesn't really matter, right? So it might take like an extra minute or so just to come up to temp. And we're doing that at the end anyways, which is just saves us time. So this is what needs to get soft and cook. This we just need to sort of bring up to temperature, and then we're good to go and blend it. Okay, blending it because of the potato, because of those split peas or those lentils, it's going to give this really, really nice creamy texture. So I made one here in advance, and I'll start plating it. Do you have any more tips?
Yeah, for sure. So another way we were talking about detox diets, and one of the easiest ways to detoxify the body or even prevent toxins from getting into the body is reducing alcohol intake. And how many of you have heard of dry January? Right? That's when you completely give up all alcohol. So that's great if you can do that and if that works for you. But there's also something called damp January. And that might be a little bit more realistic for some people, right? So damp January really is similar to reducing intake instead of going completely abstaining from alcohol. So you can make goals for yourself, more realistic goals. Like maybe it's I'll just drink, have one drink per week when I'm with a social gathering, just to kind of decrease it slowly.
May I have your attention, please? Code blue, all clear. Ethan Wing,
Good.
first floor, cardiac.
That's good that it's all clear.
Code blue, all clear. Ethan Wing, first floor,
Whatever, little
cardiac.
pauses, little moments.
Code blue,
To
all
digest that
clear.
information,
Yes.
right?
First floor, cardiac CT.
And then just another tip, okay, I think it's good, is you also hear about juice cleanses. So we just talked about the importance of hydration and the importance of fiber and how that works together to detoxify the body. If you go on a juice cleanse, chances are you're not getting the fiber your body needs because you're removing all that fiber. And then what you're also getting in this, sorry, I'm going on.
No, perfect.
What you're also getting here is good protein, and protein is important for our immune system, for our muscles, maintaining muscles, and if you go in a juice cleanse again, you're not getting that protein. So this is preferred as eating healthy is probably a better way of trying to get your organs to work properly and efficiently and detoxify the body naturally. Okay, now let's start.
What is the protein in that soup? What is it?
Good question.
Is it cheese?
No.
Lentil. Oh, the lentils.
The lentils. Yeah.
It's one of our favorites for like best bangs for your buck for protein. Those dried lentils. Again, ease of use. You don't have to prep them. You don't have to soak them right in. Does anyone know what country grows the most lentils in the world?
Canada.
Yes, you got it. 20 points in the front row.
Wow.
20 lentil points.
All right, so you can see the sort of consistency of the soup here. Super creamy from the potatoes, from those lentils. So we have a green soup, like it's a spinach soup. Spinach soup doesn't sound like the most exciting soup, but this is going to have this really nice sort of satiating feeling because of the lentils, because of the potatoes. It's giving a little bit more texture, and it'll have this really, really nice.
So did you throw
It's
it all
quite
in the
pretty.
blender?
Yeah, blender or what
is even easier are the hand blenders, the little immersion blenders. And
My
that way
favorite too.
Yeah, you can bring that right to the pot, and you just, like a little boat motor, you just blend it all up until it's nice and creamy. But that's it. Once those lentils and potatoes are cooked soft enough, you don't have to do much more from there, which is beautiful. Season to taste, maybe a little bit of salt and pepper at the end, and then I'm all about texture, so I like making it gets like really crunchy and hard. Slice it up, and then maybe toss it with some herbs, a little bit of olive oil, and that way have that creamy, smooth texture of the spinach soup. And a few of these little.
What type of seasoning do you put on your croutons?
So this has some dried herbs. This was just dried parsley, but any dried herbs, a little bit of garlic powder, and a little bit of olive oil. And that's it. But you can, if you like a little spicier, you can put some chili flakes in there if you want. But there we have, just piled up high, our spinach soup. And again, this, I was trying to find more things to say. It's such a quick recipe. The hardest part is just waiting for those, the lentils to kind of soften up. But once everything is in the pot, it's more of a waiting game. So we call this like non-active cooking. So, keep your timer on, but you don't have to be doing a ton of prep. Especially if you're using frozen vegetables, a lot of that work is already done for you. A lot of heavy lifting is already done for you. So you peel one potato and then you're pretty much just dumping stuff in.
And how about freezing this?
Oh,
Does
this
that
would freeze exceptionally well.
Yeah.
It's mostly water volume. So even if you're cooking for one portion or two portions, go for the full batch because this will freeze exceptionally well. It defrosts really well.
Okay.
Everything's blended, so texturally it'll be pretty much the same. And again, like if you're bored of leftovers day after day, by freezing it, you're stretching it out. So maybe I don't feel like the same soup that week, but maybe next month, hey, I got that soup. I don't have to do the prep, especially if I don't have the energy to cook again from scratch. I have those meals ready to go. And I know we talk about it, we share it all the time, but
It's so cool. Like for those that are you not aware of this idea?
Yeah, so this is a little muffin tin. You can buy these online. You can get them at like kitchen stores as well. They're like silicone-based muffin tins. They're fantastic. Using them for leftovers. So once the soup cools, you ladle it in, pop this in the freezer until it's frozen solid, and then this is some broth I had earlier. But you have your little soup pucks portioned out, ready to go. And then you can transfer all of these into a freezer bag, and then just keep them until you need that quick little meal or snack. What's nice, this is a half cup portion. I have a full cup portion as well, so you sort of know how much is in there. So if I need one puck, or two, or three, you can use what you need. So great recipe to freeze and store.
So I'm just gonna go over here to see if there's any questions.
No.
No questions. But I recognize some names that are listening. Okay, so that's our first recipe. Along with eating healthy, another way to detox is also getting some physical activity in, right? So you're getting some fresh air into your lungs. You're exhaling carbon dioxide, that's detoxing. Your skin, you're sweating a little bit, you're detoxing there a little bit through sweat. And then improving your heart rate also helps to detoxify some more. So our body is our natural detox machine. Our next recipe, now we're getting into growth hormones. So we're gonna make, or Jeremy's going to make, I'm not making, I'm just eating, watching, helping, is a citrus marinated chicken carnitas. And this delectable dish demonstrates that having meat, in this case chicken, is okay as part of a healthy diet. So eating animal foods does not mean you are introducing large amounts of hormones into your body that in turn lead to illness. This is fiction. The facts are that the hormones occur naturally in all animals, plants, humans. But the amount in food is safe to eat because it's just tiny, tiny amounts and it's not absorbed as well. But the other fact that people are more concerned about is the added growth hormones that you hear about in foods. And there are very strict laws in place And the laws in Canada are that for chicken, for poultry, pork, and milk-producing cows, they cannot add growth hormones to those animals. The only animals are the beef-producing cows. They get added growth hormones. And again, the amounts, there are strict guidelines for that worldwide. There's rigorous testing for that, and it's in order to improve the availability of the beef to make it cheaper for the farmers and the consumers. But with that knowledge is power, right? So you can decide which foods you're going to include in the diet, but what we're saying is that you actually don't need to worry about it in beef products, but if you prefer to have the chicken and the pork and the eggs and the milk, then you know that you don't have to worry about it there. I think that's all I have to say about growth hormones. Back to the recipe.
Awesome. So this is, again, another sort of accessible recipe, easy recipe. We're focusing on a marinade here. I think marinades are a great way to not only add flavor and extra moisture, it can help with the tenderizing and the cooking process altogether. So one of my favorites is making tacos. I love tacos. Doesn't have to just be Tuesday. Don't have to just be Taco Tuesday.
It's Thursday. So.
Yeah, and great, easy recipe to make. And you can swap out the proteins. You can use different proteins. You can use plant-based proteins with this as well. It works. We've done something similar, sort of like crumbled up tofu. You can use pork tenderloin. You can use chicken. You can use different types of fish as well. For today, we're using chicken thighs. Chicken thighs are usually my go-to. I find that in terms of price, they're sort of better, a little more budget friendly. You can definitely do this with chicken breast as well if you prefer. And you can either remove the bone, you can do the butchery yourself, or you can buy it boneless. It's completely up to you. Okay, so chicken thighs. Also, chicken thighs holds up better to slow cooking, so longer cooking. So we sort of say slow and low. So lower heat for a longer amount of time. Doesn't dry out as quickly as something that would be very lean, like a chicken breast. So that's another reason why we go into the chicken thighs. Okay, so enough about that. In a bowl, we're gonna season this. We're gonna add our marinade. I have some different spices, so smoked paprika, cumin, and some dried oregano. We're gonna throw that in. You can put whatever you like. The smoked paprika is going to sort of mimic that sort of barbecue flavor. And then it's citrus. So I have an orange and some lime. Wash it well. And what I'm going to do is use this fancy tool. Does anyone know what this is?
Rasp.
A rasp. You got it. Yeah, rasp, microplane, micrograter. This is going to do a great job at sort of removing the zest. So we want the zest from the citrus. It's an ingredient that we don't often use, we often discard, but it has all the essential oils of the citrus. So we're going to get some added flavor. So we just take the rasp in our hand, and you can just lightly grate it over the top, because all I'm looking for is just the outer part of that orange. Okay.
Not the pith. Is the white part called pith?
Yeah, or the membrane, like
The
the white membrane. Yeah, it'll start to get bitter if I go too
Can you smell the orange?
deep. Yeah, as soon as I crack it open. A little bit of that orange zest. We'll do the same with the lime in here. And because it's a marinade, the longer this sits, it will impart even more flavor into the protein I'm using. All right, so a little bit of lime zest in there. I also have some garlic. I will mince a clove of garlic. And again, this rasp, it's just a great tool to do it all, does it all, just run the garlic over.
A few of us on Black Friday bought ourselves a rasp.
Yeah,
He's
I was
talked about it all the time, so it's like, okay, it's time. I need a rasp.
urgent to get the rasp. Right, and then, so that's our sort of dry, and then we'll add some of our wet. So give the lime and the orange just a quick little roll. And
You let me know if you want to focus on this.
You're the director.
I'm the director, but I made a boo-boo before.
No. To make the squeezing a little bit easier, if you do find it a little challenging to squeeze, you just grab a fork, you stick it in the middle, and you squeeze it. Whoa! Over your
over
your friend, all over
Just
the
tell
counter.
me if we have
Sure.
issues.
That's a good one. And you just squeeze it. Daniela has to stay in frame. She can't go anywhere. So
But I use this technique all the time. I watch Jeremy; he just does it with his hands, but I use the fork.
Just squeeze it around the fork. It makes it a little bit
Very juicy.
easier.
Very juicy.
So this is a very juicy orange. You probably
So
only need half of it. You want enough marinade so that it coats all of it. Okay. For the recipe, it calls for about 6 to 8 chicken thighs, and you can sort of double that if you need more. I have most of my chicken thighs at different stages and sort of cooked, so I only have about 3 in here right now, so I don't need as much. You can adjust as needed.
Let's see what
And then
happens
same
with
with
the
the lime.
lime.
I'll aim it down.
Okay.
Away from you. And we'll squeeze the lime. And I think again, just for this amount, I think I'm okay with half of the lime. The citrus also, as a marinade, has some protective benefits too.
It
right?
does. It does. So we were talking about this earlier about barbecuing meat and the concerns about developing carcinogens. But by adding a marinade to the meat, it helps to tenderize it, but it also helps to protect it from developing those carcinogens. So that's one important tip about cooking meats is that not cooking it at a high temperature, avoiding burning the charring part, and tenderizing the meat and using vitamin C is an acidic medium is one way of protecting it. And also you're introducing antioxidants, which are help.
So is all grilling where you're getting that lovely color, everybody likes something on the barbecue or grill, is it all carcinogenic? Or is there a certain degree of char that
That's a good question. It's. Do you want?
Yeah, I mean, it's really about limiting it as much as possible. The thing that you really want to avoid is contact with the flame. So if you're cooking over charcoal, if you're cooking over a gas grill, and you have meat that is some of the fat, especially if it's a fattier cut, the fat drips off, it causes what we call flare-ups in the flame, and sort of prolonged contact with that is what can be problematic. So we want to sort of limit that as much as possible. So there's ways in which you can cook on a barbecue still and just limit it. I mean, if you're going to get a little bit of grill marks, that's going to happen. And any sort of caramelization occurs. Like I'm cooking in the oven, I'm still going to get a little bit of that caramelization of the sort of natural sugars and the marinade and the onions and some of the things I add on top of it. It's more about the flame contact that we want to limit.
is the flame contact with the fat or with the meat itself? Or is it just the grill itself?
The fat causes the flame to come in contact with the meat. Yeah. So limiting that, and the citrus marinade can help
Protect it from getting charred, getting burnt.
Yeah.
And also just gives a bit of a coating to it. There are other techniques too, like you might want to cook the meat
Indirectly.
a little bit indirectly,
Yeah.
and then add it to the grill at the end just to finish it off.
Mhm.
We also talk about how plant-based foods, vegetables, fruits, not to worry about those cancer-causing, those carcinogens occurring with plant foods. It doesn't happen. So, encouraging people to actually do more with their vegetables, maybe eggplant, zucchini.
Yeah.
And we have another question.
Ask about like using the broiler and stuff, like if you get any charry marks on something from broiler, is that the same carcinogenic effect as the flame?
There's no flame, but there is a bit. It's that high heat that we concerned about.
Yeah. So we're going for like a little bit. Like even with this, we're getting a little bit. It's try to limit it as much as possible. Don't overdo it. Yes.
And you said that's specifically just for meat, right? You're just saying,
It's
like,
just for me.
like,
Yeah.
Let's just say, you decide to go and put like a wedge of roadies on the barbecue.
No
You know
worries.
what I mean?
No worries.
No worries. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
more the meat than the
Yeah. Yeah, so just repeating, I don't know, I realize I don't know if people at home can hear the questions, but a lot of discussion about meat and plant protein and vegetables and fruits on the grill, cancer-causing substances, and it's more with the meat products. And we have maybe directing them to, we have some great demos that we did over the summertime about grilling. So if you go to the Elixir Kitchen website, you can find those there and can take a deeper dive into the techniques to use for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you say meat, sorry,
Yeah.
when you say meat, do you mean all meat, like beef, pork, chicken?
Yeah. So when it comes to the barbecuing, it's all meat products. So meat, pork, chicken, fish, a little fish too. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep in mind though, with the leaner cuts, you won't get as much of a flare
Right.
happening because not as much fat sort of rendering off and causing that flare up.
And maybe I'll just add,
Yeah.
because this brings us into discussion about cancer prevention guidelines, and we are cooking, chicken today, poultry. The guidelines limit your intake of red meats, so your beef and pork, and it's about 500 grams per week, which is about, if we look at the palm of our hand, it's about 5 times that amount per week. So that's where the limit is overall, and having meat in the diet and going more for plant foods. Chicken is also a great option to have instead of the red meats. Yeah.
All right, so we have our marinade, the citrus, some of the spices, the zest. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil here, just to help coat it all together. And I'm also adding some sliced onions, so I'm sort of bulking it up a little bit with the onions, and the onions will help to sort of caramelize at the end as well to give us some really, really nice flavor. So give it a little bit of a mixy mix. That is a technical culinary term, mixy mix. And then this will be great. The longer you can let it sit, the better. Up to like 12 hours is good. If you don't have 12 hours and you just want to use it right away, just go for it right away, okay? And you can start cooking with it. So the longer you let it sit, it'll just give it a little bit more time for those flavors to sort of sink in and develop, okay? So that will go in the fridge.
And Jeremy's using chicken thighs today. And just to give you an idea, it's good protein as well. So if you were to look at the same amount, 100 grams of chicken breast or chicken thighs, 100 grams of chicken thighs is going to give you about 26 grams of protein. For chicken breast, it's 31 grams of protein. So it's very, very similar. It's just that the chicken thighs has a bit more fat on it. And as Jeremy said, it's much more economical. So if you're looking at your budget, that's also something to consider, is that it's just as good protein-wise. It's a little cheaper.
All right, make sure to wash in between, especially when
Yes.
you're working with.
Do you know you have a drawer that comes out on its own?
That's telling you to keep inside.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
If people at home see me going down like this, it's because this drawer all of a sudden comes out.
So let that marinate. When you're ready to cook it, you can add it to a slow cooker if you want, and have it on a 6-hour or 8-hour setting on low, or you can put it in the oven in any sort of baking dish or oven-proof pan that has a lid, or you can wrap it with foil if you don't have a lid. And what I like to do is cook it at 350 for about 90 minutes. Okay, so that idea of a lower heat for a longer amount of time. And then
Magic of
I took the lid off of this one, so the onions on the top are starting to caramelize a little bit. But you have these chicken thighs with a little bit of that sort of marinade sort of reduced down. So 90 minutes covered.
and I see you use your parchment paper.
Yeah. Lining it with the parchment paper makes everything so much easier.
And then at this point here,
Do you want
magic.
the number 3?
Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So then you can see how easy this just shreds apart. So it's going to be super, super tender at this point. So I'm using a couple forks and just shredding it into sort of bite-sized pieces. And you can also put this under the broiler. So we were talking about the broiler before. Just don't overdo it. Like, we're going to get some color. We're going to get some caramelization.
So this I would consider color. Like, I don't consider this to be
Yes.
charred, right?
Yeah.
So charring is more like the burnt part. This is just color.
Yeah. And your onions, anything that's sweet in there that has the natural sugars, will start to caramelize first. Right? So just shredding it apart. I don't know if you can smell it, but that citrus from the orange, super, super aromatic. At this point, you can go ahead and start making your tacos or rice bowls or whatever you want. If you want to store this, you can store this as leftovers. This is good in the fridge for 3 to 4 days, and then you would have to just reheat it again until it's steaming, and you're good to go. So I put some of it under the broiler just to get a little bit more color. Let's cool down a bit, and we are ready to assemble. So it's shredded apart, and a little bit of that marinade is ready to go. So let's assemble. We have.
Oh, we're actually going to make some tacos.
Yeah, let's do it. So we have our little tortillas.
And you heated them up, and they're corn tortillas.
Yeah, these are corn tortillas.
So corn tortillas actually have a little bit more fiber than just your white tortillas. So when we talk about adding fiber, like the corn tortillas are great. Also, whole grain tortillas are an option too. But this is more authentic to the carnitas.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The carnitas essentially translates to like little meat, essentially. So it's sort of that shredded, that broken down, little bite-sized piece. And then toppings. This is where it gets really fun. Okay? Tacos, the toppings. You can put a little bit of cilantro. You can put a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of cheese if you want.
He has
I'll
a
show you
fridge
my
under here.
favorites. Oh yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
magic fridge there. So we have some. These are just some onions, just some pickled onions. So onions with a little bit of vinegar.
Did you pickle them yourself?
I did.
Of course.
Put just a
Stupid
little bit of
question.
vinegar, and then cheese on top.
Oh, okay, yeah. So could you please post the questions?
And a little bit of
And
lime juice.
Amazing. Thank you, Carlos.
And we have in the camera shot
Beautiful.
our little citrus marinated chicken carnitas. Very simple in terms of toppings, but you can put a little bit of avocado on there, whatever you like. That's where you can put your own little twist on it. But yeah, that is it for this one. Again, this stores really, really well. You can freeze it. What I would suggest if you freeze it is to have even a little bit of chicken broth to freeze it into almost like as a stew or a puck. That way it will defrost a lot easier without it drying out. So I would take almost like a bunch of the shredded chicken, almost like the same thing, the little molds there, pour a bunch in, and then add the top of some like chicken broth, and then freeze it as is. And then that way when you're ready to use it again, you can just warm it up as a puck and it won't dry out on it. So, yeah. All right.
Okay. And for the people at home, we'll do our best to remember to repeat the questions. I realize that it's hard to hear what we're talking about. Okay, so as Jeremy moves everything away, you're finished with recipe 2? Oh, there's a question.
Before you go on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned red meat and you included pork, and I just bringing in mind the other white meat.
The other white meat,
So
yeah.
what happened with that?
It's still like it might look like white meat, but it's part of the red meat grouping that was studied, and yeah, so it just yes. No big. So the question was, is pork red meat or is it white meat? Because we've talked about it, or you hear it always as the other white meat. But when it comes to the cancer prevention guidelines, they're referring to beef, pork, they're referring to game meats, lamb is included in that as well for the cancer prevention guidelines. But it's important to say that you don't have to eliminate it 100%. There's still value in having some meat in the diet, especially when your appetite is poor and we talk about building muscle, right? So you're still getting the easiest form of protein muscle building from your animal foods. Okay, looks like we're ready for our third recipe. And we always end with something sweet. And our last recipe is a date and clementine pudding cake. And yes, cake can be part of a healthy diet. As I was mentioning earlier, it's one of the biggest food fears we hear about is sugar feeding cancer. And it not only instills fear in people, I find that there's also a lot of shame and blame and guilt around it as well, whether it's on the person themselves or family or caregivers. So the fact is that all our cells, not just cancer cells, need sugar for energy, okay, and for brain health. And so if we avoid all foods that have sugar in it, natural or not, then our body, our muscle and fat stores start to break down to form that sugar to feed the rest of the body. So by breaking down our muscle and fat stores, then we are actually starving our normal cells from important nutrients. So the idea comes to balance and moderation. It also comes to understanding the different types of sugars, because often we hear, oh, I can't have fruit because that has sugar in it. But natural sugars found in whole grains, like our corn tortillas today, our vegetables, our dried peas and beans, like the peas that we used here, nuts and seeds, the dates, the clementines that we're using in this recipe are all examples of foods that are packed with nutrients and contain healthy amounts of sugar in the form of something called complex carbohydrates, right? And these complex carbohydrates, if you just think of the word complex, it means it's harder to digest. So it takes longer to digest, takes longer to absorb. And because of that, then our blood sugar levels are regulated. They're managed a bit better. Our insulin levels are managed a bit better. And it gives us more control over our health. Simple sugars, which we are also using in this recipe, we don't have to avoid it. Simple sugars are like white or brown sugar, maple syrup, honey. I believe we're using maple syrup in this recipe. They are digested quickly. They do cause blood sugars to rise and fall quickly. But if used in small amounts, if you're controlling it, like in this recipe, if you're combining it with foods that have fiber in it or protein, then you slow down the digestion and you slow down that rise and fall of blood sugar. So as long as our diet is mostly, following Canada's food guide, where you have lots of fruits and vegetables, your whole grains, your plant proteins, some meats, some dairy, then it's okay to have a little bit of a dessert, a small piece of cake.
Yes. Or
which
pudding
we would be doing today, or pudding
cake.
cake.
The reason I put both in is with our friends across the pond in the UK, pudding there means something a little bit different than pudding here. So we're thinking pudding here as like a soft sort of custardy dessert, whereas there it's almost like this really nice sort of moist cake. So that's what we're making. I love it. It's one of my favorites. And this sort of spiced version using clementines and dates is super aromatic, super flavorful as well. I think we need stock broth.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I was wondering.
So first thing that we're going to do is create sort of a wet mixture. So I have a cup of dates soaked in a cup of hot water. You use boiling water from a kettle. Just soak it, and that way it becomes like super, super soft. These are pitted dates. Make sure you either remove the pits or get pitted dates. Otherwise, it'll be very loud in the blender. And so it's nice and soft at this point. The liquid has cooled down as well, which will make the blending a little bit easier. So I'm going to add all of this in, so the dates and that water all in here.
What kind of dates are they?
These are just honey dates.
Honey dates.
You can use any dates. The medjool ones are really nice and
Mhm.
tasty. They're also really expensive. So for a dessert like this, I think the honey dates are
It'll work well.
So our cup of dates, cup of water in there. Then we're going to go with any citrus will work. Clementines, tangerines, oranges. This is the season for citrus. This is the best time that you're going to get citrus is throughout the winter. We don't think of citrus as a winter fruit, but it is a winter fruit for us anyways. And so this you'll have the most variety during this time and best quality as well. So same as the other recipe, I want the zest. I want that really, really nice punch of that clementine in here. And so the zest is going to be almost the most important part. I'm adding the juice as well. But as it cooks, the flavor from the juice will sort of become lost. It'll be in the background, it'll be there. But if you really want that sort of orange note, then the zest is what you need. And so again, using that rasp just to remove the very outside. I'll do both.
Almost.
We have some hidden cabinets opening on their own.
I don't remember that happening.
Yeah.
Why is the rasp so long? I see you only using the near the handle, but the thing is.
So it's funny. I think the idea of the
Just
rasp
the
came.
question. Sorry, the
Yeah.
question was why is the rasp so long?
So long, yes. Sorry, yes. I'm 30 feet too. Yeah, I forgot that. It came from like a woodworking tool to sort of shave wood down. I don't know if they changed much of it. You could probably buy shorter ones, but depending on the way you use it, you might need to use you want to use the whole stroke. I don't. I just use just the very bottom. That is a good question. So I don't know if they modified the design much for its initial intended purpose.
I do like some of the longer ones because I'll sit it over the bowl.
Yeah. That could
And
be helpful.
then I just kind of do it this way
Yeah.
because I'm the clumsy one in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I find sometimes the longer ones you can hook it over the bowl, but I don't
Yeah.
think that was the reason.
It could
but,
be. Could be, yeah. Whatever gives you more control, whatever feels most comfortable, for sure. All right, so a little bit of zest from the citrus. I can see that there are seeds in here, so I'm looking for. See if I have a sieve. Pots are
Sieve.
talking. You know what you're doing, everyone. Yes. Question.
I have a question about working citrus zest. I
Mhm.
often see in recipes it'll be like, oh, try to use a non-waxed lemon, like wax on citrus. Is that something you're concerned about, or try to remove, or in such small quantities it doesn't matter?
Yeah, so repeat the question is what I missed saying for our audience. So whether to use a waxed or non-waxed
I've never
citrus
seen
for zest, I think it could be from the UK, because I see it in a lot of recipes from the UK where some of their citrus might be waxed. I don't find that we have that issue here, but I would just wash it really well if you're going to use the outside.
Maybe even use like a little scrub brush.
Yeah, a little scrub brush just to
That's
scrub
the
it.
scrub brush.
But that's pretty much all I would do here to prepare for that. Yeah,
Good question.
very good question.
I feel like I've definitely tried to scrub under hot
Yeah.
water, and I don't see or notice anything. Am I
Yeah.
doing this wrong?
Yeah, we have some waxed vegetables here, root vegetables you'll find, sometimes rutabaga, some of the turnips will wax. We don't get that as much with the citrus, but just wash it really well. Yeah. So the juice in here
If there are any seeds, remove the seeds, which it did. If not, they're gonna get blended up anyways. I'm not too bothered. All right. So citrus in. Any spices? I have some ground ginger, ground cinnamon, which I love. That's going in as well. I'm going to add a quarter
Very
cup
great.
of olive oil. Yeah. In here, that is some of our fat. I'm going to add a little bit of maple syrup. This is where you can adjust, right? And you can control the sweetness. The dates are going to give us a little bit of sweetness. This is a bigger cake, so it's not going to provide a ton of sweetness. And I like the flavor of the maple. So you can go a couple tablespoons.
Very Canadian.
Very Canadian, yeah. And a couple eggs. If your soaking liquid of the dates is still hot, don't add the eggs. It'll start to scramble, and that's going to taste weird. So make sure it's cool before we add the eggs in. But by doing this, if I'm blending the dates anyways, I don't know at this point, that way it saves me from having to whisk it. Lid on. Make sure it's plugged in. Step 1. Plug in your appliance. Step 2, you can make it face you. Just blend until the dates are cooked. Because you've soaked the dates, it should be pretty quick. And that's good. Even if I have a few little pieces, that texture will actually be really nice.
Is this later?
That's later. Yeah.
That's later.
All right, so we have our wet mixture. For our dry mixture, 1.5 cups of flour. The flour is up to you. If we're looking to add more fiber, go for like a whole wheat flour. If you don't do so great with fiber, you can use like an all-purpose flour as well. Or you can do a blend. It's completely up to you.
Because you're getting some good fiber from the dates already and the chestnuts.
Yeah.
There's a question at the back.
I just want to piggyback on Carla's question about the use of the rind
Yes.
and how concerned I'm with the dirty dozen. I'm like super paranoid about fruit, like those fruits and soaking them, all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
So pesticides and cancer and should we use some organic? Should we not? Should we organic? No.
Great question.
So the question is about using the rind of the oranges. Concerned about like the environmental group that put out the Dirty Dozen. That's probably one of them. What did I catch it all?
Pesticides.
And pesticides. Okay. So when it comes to organic or non-organic, let me first address the Dirty Dozen. So the Dirty Dozen is from an environmental working group. It's not science-based. It's also American. So I kind of beg to differ when they put out that list of the Dirty Dozen and whether you can actually say these foods are the worst foods you can have. When it comes to pesticides and cancer, it's more related to people that work with pesticides, that are exposed to large amounts of pesticides. But that also doesn't make many of us feel the greatest. The amount of pesticides that are used in making foods now or on farms is a lot less. It's quite a lot less. And if you look at Health Canada or the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, they'll tell you that the amounts are very low, almost similar to organic farms. So there's that. But again, you still have that choice if you want to use organic or not. Washing with running cold running water is the best thing, so you don't have it sit there. We talked about that little scrub brush. So I don't know if that helps to alleviate some of the concerns. And then there's another question here.
Sorry, just about the pesticides. Like in Canada, they use like low amounts, so much of our produce is imported, especially in winter. So is that if it's
So that's a good question. So we say in Canada, I mean, there's groups around the world that are working to cut back on the pesticides. But yeah, it is a little harder to determine what is imported. So then it comes back to washing well, cold running water, making your decisions about what you're going to use and what you're concerned about. We also talk about, going local if you can. I know it's hard in Canada, right? In the middle of the winter, where are you going to go? But as often as you can, purchasing local produce, farmers markets, that kind of thing. Just do the best you can.
Yeah.
When it comes down to cancer prevention, they talk about how having your increased intake of fruits and vegetables and getting the nutrients and fiber from those really outweighs our concern about pesticides. So, yeah. I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, and we've actually done some work recently with Health Canada. They have some really good food safety guides. They have some guides on washing fruits and vegetables, because that question comes up a lot. Like, do we buy these special sprays, or do I soak in vinegar? And cool running water is the recommendation. If you have any root vegetables that have maybe a little bit some crevices or some dirt, getting like a scrubby, like a vegetable scrubby, can help. But otherwise, no need for like soaps and sprays.
Because that in itself leaves a residue.
Yeah. Okay, so wet ingredients.
Okay,
Question.
Question about our recipe. Can we substitute with oatmeal?
Oatmeal.
Can we substitute oatmeal?
Oatmeal, as in like oat flour?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Remember that it won't have gluten in it to sort of give you that strength, that bond, so you're not going to get as much of a like fluffy rise out of it. It'll be a little more moist and dense, but it will work. Texturally, it'll just be a little bit different. Yeah, but it can be done as long as it's the flour version of the oats.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So 1.5 cups of flour, whatever type you want. Our wet ingredients, and then I'm adding also a teaspoon of baking soda and baking powder each. That is also going to help with the fluffiness, with the rise, and a little pinch of salt. Okay, a little pinch of salt. We don't think of the salt in baked goods, but it does have a purpose, and it's going to help with the flavor as well.
Okay, so I was going to ask what the purpose was. Flavor? But more.
Flavor. It helps with a little bit of the chemistry of the baking as well, but that little bit of salt is going to really enhance the flavor of some of these other ingredients. So wet ingredients in. There was a question online, can we use blackstrap molasses? Yes, you can definitely use blackstrap molasses. Will have more of a traditional probably flavor to like the UK puddings. It is strong, so if you've never used it before, maybe use it to replace the maple syrup, but keep the dates as is, the date mixture as is, because it is pretty strong. All right, mix it all together, and you should have the consistency of like a pancake batter, almost like a thickened pancake batter. I don't want to over whisk. I just want to get through some of those clumps. Oh, nice. You have to zoom in.
I zoomed in. So we could watch you stir.
The most exciting part of the recipe, of course, the stirring. So just until, so you can see the consistency here. It should be wet enough that it falls off of the whisk, but almost like a really nice cake batter. You can use a baking dish, you can use a pan, anything. Just make sure you prep it. So I have a little bit of parchment on the bottom. You can even grease the sides up with a little bit of butter or oil. Doesn't have to be a springform pan. This is just what I had. And then we're going to go ahead and add the batter in to the pan. And
you don't need to do anything to the sides of the pan.
No.
You have the parchment
oh yeah,
on the
I
bottom.
add a little bit of, so grease the sides. So add a little bit of oil or a little bit of butter to it, just so that it makes it a lot easier. Use a spatula to make sure you get all of it out.
people here getting hungry a little bit.
Let it settle, and then if you want, what I like to do, you can top it with some like walnuts. I like these vacuum packed chestnuts that they're already cooked and ready to go, and so you can sort of break them up.
It's a great way of adding some more fiber and protein. So we've got the eggs for protein. We've got some chestnuts. Yeah, we've got fiber. Did you use regular flour?
I use a mix.
A mix.
Yeah.
So we've got some fiber there. Yeah, the dates definitely have fiber.
And so these are already cooked, which is nice. So you can sort of just crush them up, roughly chop them. The different sizes actually makes it really, really special. Then that goes in the oven, 325 degrees.
Oops.
Little tilt.
I tilted too much.
So 325 for about an hour. Okay? So again, slow and low heat. And I'm not gonna make you wait an hour. We've made you wait enough.
Oh my gosh.
Hour.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So we have, and
Check
now
that out.
this is, I did double the recipe for this one because I figured we're gonna have some guests. This is a little bit bigger, but yeah, there you go. The key is, depending on the pan you use, depending on the thickness, just use like a little toothpick to go into the middle or a knife. It is supposed to be on the moister side. So you don't want like a batter, cold batter sticking to it. If it is still a little sticky, that's okay. It's done, but otherwise it should come out mostly clean, okay, from the middle. So we're gonna do, I haven't cracked into it yet, so we'll see how it looks. Get our knife.
They'd like us to send them some.
Yeah,
They had to leave, so we haven't figured that out yet.
No.
We haven't figured out the smell-o-vision, and we haven't figured out the delivery, although, you know, maybe we can get into Uber deliveries. I don't know.
No ideas. You have to come here in person. All right. So, slice into this. Go from this angle. And see the chestnuts on the top. Which look great.
I learned from Jeremy, I didn't realize this, that he dreams up the recipes, but then he doesn't really test them out
Until the day before. I think it
until
looks
the
pretty
day
good.
before.
Well, I thought you were gonna say.
Until,
us.
yeah,
Yeah. You'll be the first. You'll be the first to try.
sometimes
Yeah.
that is the case.
So,
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
it's
Super,
holding its
super
shape,
moist.
which is great. And what I like to do, so oftentimes, I guess in the UK, they'll serve it with, I believe it's the clotted cream.
Clotted cream.
It's hard to find that here. So I'm using yogurt, and I just added a little bit more of that tangerine zest to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla.
I know we passed the holidays, but it almost seems like something that would
Even
be
with-
great for the holidays, right?
Yeah. And even with the yogurt, it's adding that really nice sort of creaminess to it. But you use
nice.
a high protein yogurt.
And we're
you get a
getting,
little
yeah,
more
some
protein.
more protein there.
And,
So that's how
well.
you can build in some nutrition into your desserts.
And there we go for those at home. You can see our final recipe. Clementine chestnut, what did I call it?
Date and clementine pudding cake.
There we go. Can't even remember. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you everyone for watching online. Reminder, if you're watching online, we'll be posting all the recipes from today on our website tomorrow with all the videos, all the nutrition facts, everything, so you can check that out. If you're here today, you have a copy of the recipe, and you get to try the food, which we'll be serving up shortly. It's the most exciting part.
February 20th.
February 20th is our next class. Again, reminder, third Thursday, every single month. Daniela and I are here. New recipes, new theme, and 12 to
Special
1.
guests.
We have special
guests
guests.
in February.
Special guests. Yeah, special guests. And you can go on our website to check it out to see what the next theme is. We usually post it on our YouTube channel as well. And that is it.
That's it.
Have a wonderful day. And if you're watching online, I'll answer a couple extra questions. But thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, tip. Can you freeze the cake?
Oh.
Yes, you can freeze the cake. Cut it up into small portions, freeze it individually, and then you can pack it up together. That's a great tip, especially, I think we'll get through all of this today. But if I was making it at home, yeah, you can even cut it up into small little squares, freeze it. Those are nice little snacks that you can warm up as well. So,
Don't you have another
freeze
one
it.
with jelly?
I do have another one. Yeah.
The staff like to enjoy some of it too, right?
All right, everyone.